Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to explore something uh, pretty fundamental. It gets talked about a lot, but maybe not always, quite like this.
Yeah,
We're looking at what it really means to live a connected life.
that's right. We're digging into some really rich source material you shared, leaning heavily on Kristine Klussman's connection theory.
Yeah, and these sources, they offer a fascinating way to look at it, don't they? Connection not just as some vague idea, but as a practical compass.
Exactly, a compass for making decisions, finding your way, that kind of thing.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Let's unpack that. Why connection instead of, say, happiness? What actually disconnects us?
And crucially, what can we do about it? What are the tangible practices for building that connection with ourselves, others, the world?
Right, getting to the heart of what really truly fulfills us.
Absolutely.
So let's start right there. What is this core idea of connection? And why does the material argue happiness might be the wrong angle?
Well, the core idea is that connection acts as the single reliable compass, an internal guide pointing you towards your true north.
Your true north.
Yeah, through all the choices and challenges life throws at you. It's framed as the actual doorway to finding things like life purpose, meaning, real contentment, lasting peace.
And the pushback on happiness.
Yeah.
That feels, I don't know, a bit countercultural.
It really does, doesn't it? But the argument is that happiness, well, it's an emotion.
Okay.
And like all emotions, it comes and goes. It's transient. You feel happy when you get something you want or achieve a goal, but that feeling, it fades.
Right, you adapt.
Exactly. You adapt, and then you're kind of left needing something more, something better, just to get that feeling back. The sources call it the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic treadmill. Constantly running, but not really getting anywhere lasting.
Precisely. Always chasing that next peak.
So connection is being offered as something more stable, more foundational than just chasing a feeling.
That's the idea. It's presented as an internal state, not just a reaction to what's happening outside of you.
So where did this whole theory, connection theory, actually come from?
Well, there's a really powerful origin story shared in the material. The author talks about a time in her 30s, marked by some really significant personal losses.
Oh.
Yeah, a late-term pregnancy loss, the end of her marriage, which she realized just wasn't the right fit, and then all the strain that puts on family ties, friendships, it left her feeling really profoundly disoriented.
Wow, that's a lot. That kind of thing can totally shake your sense of who you are.
It absolutely can. And at the same time, she started working in a hospital setting with medically ill and dying patients.
Okay.
And what was really surprising to her, she says, and kind of counter to what everyone expected, was that this worked. It wasn't depressing.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, she found that many of these patients were some of the most, awake, inspiring people she'd ever met.
More content, more authentic than healthy people.
Yeah.
That's a striking thing to notice.
It really is. And there's this one specific story, an anecdote about a patient named Sunny.
Sunny?
Yeah. And Sunny was facing a really grim cancer diagnosis. No family support, huge financial strain, having to take buses before dawn just to get to work while she was going through treatment. Just tough circumstance.
Unimaginably tough.
Right. But the author describes her as just radiating gratitude, being genuinely jovial. And the first thought is, is this denial?
Yeah, you'd wonder.
But Sunny saw it completely differently. She explained that the diagnosis had really woken her up.
Woken her up.
Yeah, it gave her this clarity on what really mattered. She could finally be honest with herself, with others, in a way she couldn't before. She saw handling the treatment as just like a task, something separate from her main goal, which was just being fully alive.
Wow.
And her quote is just, it's incredibly powerful. She said, "I will not waste my entire life being asleep at the wheel."
Asleep at the wheel. That just stops you in your tracks.
It really did for the author. She said she was speechless. She'd just come from a morning totally consumed by her own, worries and perceived problems. And seeing Sunny and noticing how many patients facing death seemed to be living in this, heightened state of awareness.
Connected to their core truths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Experiencing this deep, lasting peace, even right alongside immense grief, it sparked that huge question, can we live like this before a crisis forces us to?
So the theory really grew out of mixing that deep personal struggle with these profound observations about what matters most when facing mortality.
Precisely. And the material also touches briefly on psychology itself, how it sometimes gets fragmented into all these narrow niches, right?
Yeah.
The argument is there's been a need for something more synthesized, something that gives a more global sense of fulfillment, and connection theory tries to do that, bringing different bits of well-being under this one core concept.
Okay, so connection is this really powerful internal compass, this path to real meaning.
Yeah.
But what happens when that compass is off? Or we're just ignoring it? What does disconnection actually feel like?
Well, the sources paint a picture of modern society kind of pushing us towards disconnection, almost without us noticing.
How so?
We're just constantly swimming in this sea of ads, obligations, digital noise, what they call the attention economy.
Right. Everyone wants a piece of your attention.
Exactly. We're bombarded with messages about what we should be doing or buying or looking like. And we spend hours scrolling through these like perfectly curated versions of other people's lives.
Yeah, that can definitely leave you feeling cut off or just spinning your wheels.
It really can. Disconnection feels like being on autopilot, just going through the motions, maybe doing what you think you're supposed to do, but your heart isn't in it. You might seem distracted, maybe insincere, because you're more focused on getting external rewards or approval than, internal satisfaction. It can feel like being emotionally blocked, maybe afraid to make big decisions, or keeping people at arm's length, like you've got this defensive armor up.
There was that quote in the material from a study participant that really hit me, describing it as a disembodied experience. Like their mind could make their body do things, but they weren't really there. Almost like their soul and head were separated.
That image is so vivid, isn't it? Perfectly captures that feeling of detachment from your own life, your own experience.
Yeah.
And the really tricky part, the sources say, is that the state of disconnection often comes on slowly, imperceptibly.
Like the frog in the boiling water story.
Exactly like that fable. You don't really notice it happening because it just gradually becomes your normal. It becomes part of our culture, as the material puts it.
So it's not usually like a switch flips, but more like a slow drift.
Precisely. A gradual drift away from yourself. And this chronic state, it often shows up as this persistent, nagging sense of dissatisfaction.
Just something's not right.
Yeah. Unease, uncertainty, maybe you feel indecisive, like you don't quite know what you need or want anymore. Maybe uncomfortable in your own skin, always looking for that constant external validation, feeling inauthentic, maybe even to yourself.
Wow.
And the sources use this really powerful, kind of haunting phrase for it. It's death by 1,000 self-betrayals.
Oof, death by 1,000 self-betrayals.
Yeah.
That's visceral. And there's that strange irony too, right? The material points out that the more disconnected someone is,
Right.
the less likely they are to even realize it because these psychological defenses kick in, sort of numbing them to how uncomfortable that chronic unhappiness actually is.
Right. It's a tough cycle to break because the state itself makes you less aware you're even in it.
Exactly. A difficult loop. So if disconnection is this slow, kind of insidious drift, how do you start to navigate back? How do you actually build connection? The sources seem really clear that it has to start from within.
It absolutely does. The whole foundation is connecting with your true self. Like the material says, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds profound. But where do you practically begin with that?
Well, a really key starting point is identifying and then prioritizing your values.
Your values, okay.
The sources describe values as being like the spokes on a wheel that guide you towards your life purpose.
Spokes on a wheel, I like that.
Yeah. And the process they suggest is pretty practical.
Yeah.
Start by just looking at lists of values. You can find them online easily. Note which ones resonate with you. Then try to narrow it down maybe to your top 20, then maybe 10. And then the critical step, get it down to your top 3.
Just 3. That sounds hard. But I guess it forces clarity.
It forces major clarity. That's the power of it. Honing in on those top few values makes those really difficult decisions much clearer. It helps you avoid getting paralyzed by, competing priorities.
Right.
But it requires rigorous honesty. You have to be willing to let go of those internalized priorities that others handed down.
Should.
Exactly. The things you think you should care about because of family or society or whatever. That Lissa Rankin quote about stop shoulding yourself really hits home here.
Yeah.
And that almost unbelievable example of Andre Agassi admitting he actually hated tennis despite being a world champion.
Right. And the material points out, being honest, that doesn't automatically mean you quit the thing.
Not necessarily, but it might completely reframe why you're doing it, finding a reason that aligns with your values, not someone else's.
Okay.
And it's also crucial to check in with your values regularly. They aren't set in stone.
They can change.
Oh, yeah. They can definitely shift as you go through life. Like the author's example of living in a Bali. Her priorities changed dramatically during that time away. The sources even suggest maybe making multiple lists for different areas of your life, like work values, parenting values, self-care values.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so understanding what you genuinely value, that's step one.
Yeah.
What about finding meaning? That's another big piece.
Huge piece. And the sources really highlight journaling as a powerful tool here, specifically journaling about your experiences through the lens of those values you just identified.
So connecting experiences back to your core values.
Yes. There was a fascinating Stanford study mentioned. Students who journaled specifically about their values ended up like happier, healthier, better able to handle stress, even more so than students who just wrote about generally good things that happened.
Interesting. So it's that connection that's key.
It really seems to be. The suggestion is a simple daily practice. Just take 5 or 10 minutes. Write about what felt most meaningful that day, and really try to relive the experience as you write. Doing that can apparently more than double your emotional and physiological reward.
Wow, double.
Yeah. And over time, your brain actually gets better, more attuned to noticing meaning as it happens during the day.
That's cool.
And it's not just a solo thing. You can apply this to relationships, too. Cultivating meaning in your interactions by being a bit more vulnerable or expressing appreciation, like the story of the author improving her relationship with her dad just by cooking together.
Yeah, I remember that. Or Mary writing those love letters.
Exactly. And meaning is also found in service, right? Even small acts of kindness are pointed out as powerful sources.
Okay, values, meaning.
Yeah.
What about identifying your unique gifts? How does that fit in?
Identifying your unique gifts is presented as another route to finding purpose. Figuring out how you can use your specific strengths in a way that feels meaningful to you. The strengths test on Martin Seligman's website is mentioned as one possible starting point. But the material makes this interesting distinction between gifts and just like talents.
Gifts versus talents. How are they different?
Well, they use the example of a mentor's wife, Amelia. She had a real talent for accounting. She was great at it. But her true gifts, the things that really lit her up and made a unique impact, were more obvious in her volunteer work at an orphanage.
Ah, I see. Talent is what you're good at. Gift is maybe more connected to your passion or purpose.
Something like that. And the material makes this really profound point that our greatest gifts often appear in our story, especially in the parts involving struggle or pain.
That feels really important. Your struggles can reveal your gifts.
It's a powerful idea. The TEDx Youth event is used as an example. Teenagers sharing their vulnerabilities, their pain on stage. And in doing that, they found their voice, their gifts, and inspired others. The suggestion is to actually look into those dark corners of your own life. Where have you struggled? What pain have you experienced? And is there maybe a passion or enthusiasm connected to that? That intersection is often where your unique contribution lies.
That takes courage, though.
Absolutely. It's not easy work.
The sources also mentioned mini purposes as maybe an easier starting point.
Yeah.
Like for specific areas of life.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to figure out your grand, overarching life purpose all at once. That can feel overwhelming. Focusing on finding meaning and using your gifts in just one domain, like parenting, using the mission statement example, or your work can be a great way in.
Makes sense.
And finally, related to all this, is honoring your dreams, even small ones. Taking small, concrete actions towards them helps you avoid regret later on. Like that client who started playing baseball again at 40, hired a coach. It wasn't about going pro.
Right, it was about honoring that part of himself.
Exactly. Keeping that connection to a long-held dream alive.
So building that foundation is really about this deep self-knowledge. Values, meaning gifts, dreams, understanding your internal landscape.
That's the core of it, the internal blueprint.
And it's not just all in the head, is it? The body plays a massive role, too. How does connecting with your physical self fit into this?
Oh, it's presented as absolutely critical and often really overlooked, actually. Connecting with your body is a huge part of self-care and self-connection. It's about fostering this gentle, positive relationship with your physical being.
The gentle and positive. I like that.
Yeah. And it starts with developing a mindful belief system around things like nutrition, movement, sleep, really understanding what matters most for your body, not just blindly following the latest trends or diets.
Okay, let's break that down. Nutrition first. The sources definitely acknowledge how messed up our modern food system can be.
They really do. And then they offer Michael Pollan's incredibly simple 7-word mantra as a great starting point. Eat food. Not too much. Mostly plants.
Can't argue with that.
Pretty solid advice. The material elaborates a bit. Prioritize leafy greens, healthy fats, minimize things that tend to cause inflammation or depletion, like too much animal protein or fat,
Yeah.
alcohol, caffeine, and a big one, cook at home more often.
Right. Know what's going into your food. There was that really interesting technique mentioned, too, photojournaling your food.
Yes, that was fascinating. The author found it incredibly powerful for breaking through a disconnect she felt around her food choices. Just the simple act of taking a picture of everything she ate or drank.
Made her more mindful.
Totally. More present, more thoughtful. She realized she was less likely to eat stuff she wouldn't really want a picture of. And it shifted her motivation away from external diet pressure towards genuinely wanting to fuel her body well. She ended up feeling more awake, more aware, more connected.
That's a cool practical tip.
Yeah. And also pausing when you reach for food out of, say, boredom or stress, and asking yourself, what am I really hungry for right now?
Good question. Okay, what about movement?
Well, the sources point out how common it is for people to feel kind of unfulfilled by, unhappy with, or out of touch with their bodies. Even people who seem outwardly healthy, like in that mother's group example they shared.
Yeah.
So the key here is finding your own profound whys for moving. Reasons that really resonate deeply with you, that go beyond just burning calories or hitting a number on the scale.
Like what?
Maybe your why is carving out some alone time, or getting out of your head for a bit. Or maybe it's simply about honoring this amazing machine that carries you through life. Finding that motivation is key.
And there was that interesting research mentioned about, like, frequent micro movements, not just big workouts.
Yes, that really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Drawing on work by Katie Bowman and Dr. Joan Brenikos, the material suggests that all those small bursts of movement throughout the day, micro-movements, gravity-defying movements, might actually be more beneficial for overall health than just one single intense workout session.
Huh. So like taking the stairs, short walks.
Exactly. Vernikos' phrase, sitting kills, moving heals, really sums it up. Parking further away, taking stairs, short walking breaks, even just discreet stretching at your desk. It all adds up. Activity trackers can be useful reminders for this stuff.
So it's about weaving movement into the fabric of your day, not just seeing it as this separate chore you have to schedule.
That's it exactly. Connecting with your body's natural need and desire to move. The author shared her own year-long journey of just trying different things. Ice skating, climbing, drumming, even square dancing. Just approaching it all with curiosity. A beginner's mind. No pressure. That helped her reconnect with the simple joy of it.
I love that. Okay, sleep, another huge one.
Huge. And Dr. David Agus is cited really emphasizing the #1 priority for sleep. A regular sleep and wake schedule.
Regularity over total hours.
Regularity is presented as the absolute key, 7 days a week if possible. While getting enough sleep is vital, of course, 7 to 9 hours for most adults, that consistency is what really helps regulate your body's natural circadian rhythms.
Makes sense. What about other sleep tips?
The usual best practices are mentioned. Cool, dark bedroom. Get rid of electronics, or at least put them on airplane mode. Get some natural sunlight exposure, especially earlier in the day. Stop looking at screens at least an hour before bed. Create a relaxing wind-down routine. Manage stress. And they note that cardio exercise can help lower cortisol levels, which aids sleep.
Good reminders. And hydration seems simple, but important.
Super important. Water is called a health elixir, and apparently chronic dehydration is way more common than people realize.
How much should we be drinking?
The general recommendation mentioned is around 30 to 50 ounces a day. That's roughly 1 to 1.5 liters. But the emphasis is on sipping gradually throughout the day, not chugging it all at once. And remember, you get water from water-rich foods, too.
Right.
The author and a client both shared how simply committing to drinking enough water became this really powerful kind of self-reinforcing habit. It improved their overall health and even made it easier to stick with other self-care practices.
It sounds like all these simple, consistent ways of caring for your body, food, movement, sleep, water, are actually profound acts of self-connection, nurturing that gentle relationship.
They really are. It's about honoring the physical vessel, right? The thing that carries you through life.
Okay, so we've built the foundation of self-knowledge, connected with the body. Now the inner landscape. Emotions. This feels like maybe the trickiest part for a lot of people.
It absolutely can be, yeah. But the sources really stress that connecting with your emotions is essential. It's crucial for self-connection, and it's where a lot of our wisdom lies.
So how do you do that?
One practice suggested is simply tracking your feelings. Throughout the day, just pause occasionally. Notice how you're feeling in different situations or with different people or during different activities. Are you feeling relaxed, tense, authentic, a bit off?
Even the subtle feelings matter.
Definitely. The material says even those subtle feelings give you a wealth of information. It helps you start noticing patterns, like what lifts you up, what drains you. And then you can make better choices based on that, choices that align more with your well-being.
That makes sense. And Dr. Kristen Neff's work on self-compassion comes in here, right?
Yes, hugely important. Self-compassion is presented as the key to having a really healthy relationship with yourself, especially in our culture, which puts so much pressure on us to be, perfect or above average.
Which is impossible for everyone.
Exactly. Self-esteem based on feeling special or better than others is described as fragile and ultimately unsatisfying because, well, statistically, we can't all be above average all the time.
Right, so self-compassion is the alternative.
Right. It's presented as a much healthier alternative. And it has three core components. First is noticing, just paying attention to your own suffering or discomfort without judging it or fighting it.
Okay.
Second is common humanity, recognizing that struggling, making mistakes, feeling inadequate, that's all part of being human. You're not alone in it. Everyone goes through this stuff.
That feels important, less isolating.
Totally. And the third part is self-kindness, basically treating yourself with the same warmth, care, and understanding that you'd offer a good friend who's having a hard time.
Treat yourself like a friend.
Yeah. And the sources note this doesn't always come naturally. It's something you need to consciously practice and cultivate.
That feels very actionable, though. The sources also talk about parsing many feelings at once. What's that about?
Just acknowledging that our emotional life is complex, right? We often feel multiple things at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
So the material suggests a visualization technique, like picturing your different feelings as different passenger on the bus. Each one is there, acknowledged as valid, but maybe you don't have to let any single one drive the bus. The author's example of being at that sex therapist lecture.
Right, feeling interested but also uncomfortable.
Exactly. Intellectually curious, maybe a bit fascinated, perhaps some judgment creeping in, maybe discomfort. You can hold all of that at once. It's okay.
Okay, and then how do we handle the really difficult ones?
Yeah.
The negative emotions, that's where we often get stuck or try to numb out.
That's a huge challenge for connection. The sources explain how negative thoughts, especially getting stuck ruminating, create this tunnel vision and disconnect us.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, and it's crucial to try and get underneath those surface level emotions like anger or frustration and admit the more vulnerable feelings underneath. Things like disappointment or sadness or grief. Those are often the more meaningful, poignant ones where the real healing or processing can happen. Identifying your personal triggers and patterns is also really key.
And there was that challenging suggestion, asking how you might resemble what you are criticizing in others. That sounds uncomfortable.
It can be uncomfortable, but it's presented as a really powerful tool for fostering both self-acceptance and connection. The idea is that when we judge others harshly, it's often because we're denying or suppressing something similar, our own shadow side within ourselves.
Yeah.
So this creates what the sources call a double dose of disconnection. You're disconnected from the other person through judgment, and you're disconnected from a part of yourself through denial. By exploring why certain things trigger you so much in others, you can gain insight into yourself, increase self-acceptance.
And that helps you connect better with others.
Yeah, because you start seeing them and yourself as part of the same imperfect human experience, flaws and all.
Connecting thoughts and feelings, like in CBT, is also mentioned briefly.
Right. Understanding how your thoughts are influencing your feelings, that's another piece of the puzzle for gaining clarity. But ultimately, the overarching idea is about befriending difficult emotions.
Befriending them, not getting rid of them.
Exactly. This idea that the goal of life is to only feel happy or positive is a myth. We're wired for the whole spectrum. The practice is about learning to sit with difficult feelings, to process them, not just push them away. The sources suggest using simple, soothing self-statements, like just acknowledging, wow, it is so hard to feel this way right now.
Just acknowledging it.
Yeah. That simple act allows you to move through the emotion, learn from it, and connect with a deeper, wiser part of yourself instead of getting stuck fighting it.
All emotions deserve respect, as they put.
Exactly. They all contain information for us.
Okay. So we've covered building that internal foundation, knowing yourself, connecting with your body, navigating emotions. Now, how do we bring this into everyday life? The sources offer a whole range of connection practices and suggest some lifestyle shifts, too.
Yeah, it's like a menu of options. And the emphasis is really that you don't have to do all of them. But trying some, incorporating more, can really enrich your life. One that gets highlighted as essential, not just nice, but essential, is alone time.
Essential. That's a strong word.
Yeah.
Why is alone time considered so crucial for connection? Seems counterintuitive.
It does seem that way at first, doesn't it? But the reasoning is that alone time is where you actually get the space to slow down, to gain clarity, to express yourself authentically without worrying about external judgment or pressure, to feel a sense of freedom, and just to recharge your inner batteries.
Okay, I can see that.
The material points out that we often waste little moments of potential solitude throughout the day, waiting in line, commuting, because we immediately pull out our phones or get distracted.
Guilty as charged.
Right. So mindful awareness in those small pockets is key. But actually scheduling some larger chunks of alone time can bring even bigger benefits.
Okay, what about some of the more maybe widely recognized practices?
Sure. Meditation gets mentioned, obviously, for its huge range of benefits, mind, body, and definitely for connecting with that true self. Gratitude is another big one. It's presented as something that really opens up your heart and mind, almost like a kickstart to connection. The key is to cultivate it with variety. Notice different things you appreciate each day. Express it in different ways, journaling, notes, saying it out loud. Training yourself to actively see the good that's already present.
Seeing the good. I like that.
Yeah.
The idea of spiritual practice or cultivating a sense of oneness is also in there.
Yes. This is about fostering that feeling of being interconnected with other people, with nature, maybe with the universe, that sense of being part of something larger than just yourself.
Right.
It's central to many wisdom traditions, and the sources suggest it's something that can happen spontaneously, but also something you can actively cultivate as a practice, just by intentionally turning your mind towards that feeling of unity.
Creative expression is another one listed.
Yeah, described as a primal need, an essential life force.
Oh.
Creative expression is seen as this direct line to connecting with your unique, true self.
But not just for artists, right?
Not at all. It's not limited to traditional arts. It's about expressing your unique perspective, bringing creativity to anything you do well, cooking, solving a problem at work, gardening, anything. It often involves pushing through some fear or anxiety, but the neurobiological rewards are significant. There are some great quotes from Alonzo King and Brené Brown included about this.
Noticing beauty that feels like a really simple, accessible one.
Totally accessible, and highlighted as a snippy highway to a natural sense of connection and even love. It helps counteract our brain's natural tendency to focus on the negativity bias.
So how do you practice it?
Super simple. Just take moments throughout your day to pause, look around you, and intentionally linger for a few seconds on something you find beautiful. Nature is often an easy place to start, but it could be anything.
Learning is also listed as a way to connect.
Yeah, connecting to your life force through curiosity and growth. Learning broadens your perspective. It fosters empathy, builds confidence. It keeps you engaged and connected to your own enthusiasm. The suggestion is to seek out challenges that are just slightly beyond what you can already do, engaging enough to stretch you, but not so overwhelming that you shut down. It's a simple way to feel more alive and expand your capacity for connection.
And finally, flow. That state of being totally absorbed.
Right, that feeling of being completely immersed in an activity, enjoying it so much you lose track of time. Experimenting with different things to find what puts you in that flow state is presented as a way to find yourself. The author's story about learning to paint, getting totally lost in it, and feeling this amazing sense of connection afterward really illustrates that.
So all these practices, alone time, gratitude, creativity, flow, they're like different doorways into deepening that self-connection and maybe extending it outward.
Exactly. They're practical tools for weaving connection into the fabric of your actual days.
But let's be real. The sources also tackle the big modern obstacles that seem to actively work against connection.
Oh, they absolutely do. Time, technology, and just general complexity are presented as major hurdles. And material makes this crucial point. We often fail to really examine how we actually spend our time, and until we do that, it's hard to make progress towards a more connected life.
Like the author's time audit.
Exactly. Her own eye-opening time audit was a perfect example. She realized huge chunks of her week were being eaten up by things that weren't even remotely priorities for her driving: email, routine calls, errands. The issue wasn't necessarily a lack of time, but wasted time.
Right. Being busy, but busy with stuff that doesn't actually align with your values or goals.
Precisely. Which leads directly to the importance of prioritizing for the win, as they call it.
Prioritizing, okay.
The sources note that prioritizing actually takes mental energy, so it's best to do it when you're fresh, maybe earlier in the day. Stephen Covey's famous 4 quadrants framework, urgent versus important, is offered as a helpful tool.
Quadrant 2 is the goal, right? Important, but Not urgent.
That's the sweet spot. Spending most of your time on things that are important but not necessarily urgent. And the material really challenges us to question that knee-jerk reaction to jump on things just because they feel urgent or because someone else is putting pressure on us. You have to ask, is this truly important to me and my values? Because time management that's rooted in your priorities, not just efficiency for its own sake, is what leads to that feeling of contentedness. Like the example of Ed making his commute meaningful by listening to educational stuff.
And for those things you just have to do, those inescapable tasks, the power of intervention idea comes in.
Yes. For the chores or obligations that don't feel particularly meaningful on their own, you can apply an intervention to inject some connection, like the author making dinner more engaging by trying a new recipe or getting her family involved, or ritualizing habits by pairing them like listening to a podcast while walking, or using that Uber ride for catching up on calls instead of stressing in traffic.
Makes sense. Complexity is another big modern challenge mentioned.
Huge one. The sources argue that complexity, just having too many things cluttering our lives, whether it's physical possessions, obligations, mental chatter, actually blocks connection, even though it might feel like having more means living a bigger life.
So simplicity is the answer.
Simplicity is presented as the antidote, and it's framed as being about letting go. Often, that involves overcoming what they call a scarcity mentality, that fear of not having enough, and instead cultivating an abundance of sufficiency.
Abundance of sufficiency. I like that phrase.
Yeah. Knowing that there is enough, and maybe more importantly, that you are enough. Thomas Prince's idea is mentioned too, that goods are only good up to a certain point. More isn't always better.
The author's Bali example really drives this home, doesn't it?
It really does. Being forced to live out of just one suitcase led to this massive sense of unburdening for her. She described feeling happier, her kids were less focused on consumerism, and she was actually a more present, more fun parent because life was simpler.
So simplicity isn't about deprivation.
Not at all. It's about focusing on quality over quantity, which naturally allows for deeper connection to the people and activities that genuinely matter.
Okay. And then the big one, electronics and technology. Maybe the most pervasive obstacle today.
Definitely a huge focus in the material. It highlights how captivating technology is and points out that much of it is specifically designed to be addictive, right? Giving us those little dopamine hits that keep us coming back.
Yeah.
And the great massive irony is that all this digital connectivity often leads to a profound disconnection from ourselves, from our priorities, from the people and environment right in front of us. It's described as pseudo-connectivity.
Pseudo-connectivity, that's a good term. And that statistic about increasing social isolation is pretty sobering.
It really is. Fewer people feeling they have someone they can actually talk to about important stuff, despite being constantly connected online.
And we're terrible at guessing how much time we actually spend on devices, aren't we?
Woefully underestimated, usually. The material makes this key distinction. Unintentional device use, just mindlessly scrolling or reacting, tends to pull us into a disconnected state. It's often associated with anxiety, low mood, regret afterwards.
But intentional use can be different.
Yes. Intentional, focused use, like the author using her laptop for dedicated writing time, can feel energizing, productive, even exhilarating and connected. That Facebook study they mentioned is telling. The more time people spent passively scrolling, the worse their mood got, primarily because it felt meaningless.
So what are some solutions offered?
Things like creating clear boundaries, like the mother who started taking public transport so she physically couldn't check work emails during her commute, protecting her time with her kids, or the author's own email strategies. Meditating before checking email, scheduling specific times for it, using Do Not Disturb, unsubscribing ruthlessly from newsletters.
Practical stuff.
Yeah, and even just suggesting a mindful pause before you automatically reach for your device. Take a breath, maybe look around the room first. Just reclaim that tiny moment to feel more connected to your actual reality.
So the goal isn't necessarily to ditch technology altogether.
Not necessarily. It's about becoming much more intentional about how and why we use it. Making that distinction between active, purposeful engagement and just compulsive numbing is crucial.
Numbing versus engagement.
Exactly. Intentional zoning out for a bit, probably fine. But chronic, compulsive numbing to avoid discomfort, that's problematic. It breeds anxiety and stops you from processing what's really going on. Resisting that urge actually builds mental strength. Technology is highlighted as a really significant area where most of us could probably reclaim a lot of time and reconnect with our intentions.
Okay. Finally, the sources wrap up these obstacles by emphasizing the need for slowing down.
Yes. It might seem weird, but apparently feeling disconnected can actually make us want to speed up, as one research participant put it. Rushing feels productive, maybe, but it disconnects us further.
Whereas slowing down helps.
Slowing down helps us access our inner wisdom, gain clarity. Busyness, rushing, chronic stress, they're explicitly called connection killers because when we're rushing, we tend to become impatient, more self-focused, less present.
A Good Samaritan study they mentioned is just, wow, such a powerful illustration of that.
Isn't it startling? Seminary students, on their way to talk about the Good Samaritan, and the ones who were told they were running late were significantly less likely to stop and help someone who seemed to be in distress compared to the ones who thought they had plenty of time.
Just the pressure of rushing overrode their values in the moment.
Completely. It shows how powerful situational pressure, like rushing, can be. It can literally make us forget our deepest values and priorities. The conclusion drawn in the material is pretty stark and direct. We have got to slow down.
Wow, this has been, well, a really deep dive, true to the name. It feels like these sources offer such a comprehensive and frankly hopeful framework for moving away from that nagging dissatisfaction towards something much more solid and meaningful.
It really does feel that way. Shifting that fundamental goal away from just chasing fleeting happiness towards intentionally cultivating connection with ourselves, with others, with our work, the world, it just seems to open the door to a much deeper, more sustainable kind of contentment, purpose, and overall wellness.
And it really does keep coming back to that starting point, doesn't it? It all begins with self-connection, really knowing who you are, what you stand for, what truly makes your heart, well, soar.
Yes, that's absolutely the bedrock. And the sources offer that really simple but powerful framework as a daily guide, something you can use in almost any moment. Intention plus attention plus one simple question.
Intention, attention, one simple question.
Yeah. Set your intention to be present, to be connected. Bring your attention back to that intention throughout the day again and again. And keep asking yourself that one simple question. Am I feeling connected right now? What would help me feel more connected in this moment?
That feels like a really practical anchor you could use anytime, anywhere. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to carry forward something drawn right from the heart of this material.
Could it be that the deepest fulfillment isn't actually found in achieving more or accumulating more things or meeting all those external standards of success? Is it possible that true satisfaction, true contentment comes not from what you accomplish according to all the external shoulds, but from that simple, sometimes quiet feeling of being authentically connected to yourself, to others, and to the world that's already right here around you?